myself to keeping the museum for an open meeting room and, perhaps this room down there, because there are times when we don't have nearly an adequate room out here, especially now when everybody has to be seated so far apart. But even when we had it just clear full in here, there were times that it was not adequate to hold the meeting. But that was just my preference, and I don't know that it was completely 100% the preference of the other two commissioners. The big thing though is, it's the election room. And there are all sorts of election requirements now on how those machines must be set up, where they're stored, the security on those, and of course we know of all the squabbles over last election, not here nationwide, and statewide, the requirements are all tightening up on that. So, our county clerk has been very vocal in saying, no, I don't want to split that room in half, because for one thing, I'd have to cut down on the number of voting machines, and the lines are gonna get really long, on how long it takes to go through and vote and everything, if we have to cut down on the number of machines. And the requirements that the deputies and those working on the case came to us with, and the build over thing, amounted to, it said on the paperwork that I saw, it was a rough estimate of $125,000 in money to be spent on upgrading that half of the museum to meet their requirements. That did not include the installation of more plugs and everything in the appropriate areas to make sure we could get as many voting machines as we could on the other half. Because right now the plugs are where they need to be. So the $125,000 was a rough estimate. My opinion is to go over that. We don't have it in the budget here. It was gonna have to come back to you. And in the meantime, continued looking, and I have been told that they have found a location down by Globe Valve. There's an office place that could be used for this. The gentleman that owns it wants to lease it to the county for $600 a month, $7,200 a year for 2 years. There are things they say they have to have to. We have no interrogation room in the whole county. The city has one.
So, respectfully, we do need to discuss this.
Yeah.
But I feel like we need to get through these budget requests.
That's exactly fine. My point of putting it in here is that, yeah, we need a place for this in the budget. I would like to keep the $100,000 in here, because we do need to do some things down there. And it's my opinion that we could move some offices around and get everything in here, but not by January 30th. And I hope not at nearly $100,000 or $150,000.
Hey, Bill, does it look like other commissioners are for the
Well, I have not, we have not had a meeting since then. I know that they have called.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, okay,
Sorry.
we're going. Ambulance, same. Coroner vehicle zeroed out. EMA vehicle zeroed out. Sheriff's vehicles is back at $80,000. And the courthouse elevator, we're in the third stage of that at $60,000. We're done. Okay, any questions? At your convenience or the next meeting, we need to discuss and finish. Okay?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody, anything else for Commissioner Brown? All right.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Morning, everybody.
Morning.
First off, I'd like to thank, the members of the council that responded to an email that I sent out at the beginning of January, just kind of, conveying my thoughts on, budget and raises and stuff, and I appreciate the acknowledgement for those that did acknowledge my email. I'm just gonna start off with the two that are real simple and easy, the identification, security protection. It was at 3,000 last year, we're gonna keep it at that. And
Page 41 for the council.
And then, okay, so we're not changing that. It should cover everything that we need. I mean, we upped it a couple years ago because of the amount of backloading that we're doing and happened to, redact all of those as well. So, and then, the county elected officials training fund, we upped it to 3,500. Of course, last year we didn't use any of it because none of us really went anywhere, last year. Those of us that had submitted some, expenses last year, they just held them for this year. Like I'd already submitted my money for our conference, and we just did our conference, via Zoom. So, they just held my money till this year, so, I don't see any reason to up that, this year. Cause I still think some conferences are still not fully being, done in person. There's still some people that are doing things by Zoom, so I think those two are pretty simple and easy, and, nothing needs to change on those. On my general, I did ask for, a raise for my first deputy. And I think in my letter that I sent out on, July the 1st, I asked that, the first deputies be considered like the chief, court reporters. If you look at an org chart, if you look at a judge and you look at their court reporter, that's kind of how it funnels down. In our offices, we are the elected officials, and when we're not here, our first deputy is next in line. They're in charge. And, when we have people that come to work every day and do their job, and they see other people getting major raises and they're making quite a bit more than what a first deputy makes, I think we need to compensate, and I appreciate the extra $1,000 that you put in their salaries last year, but I still think we need to work on their salaries, quite a bit. And I know we're a small county, and I know you can compare us to all the other counties outside that are the same size as us. But we're surrounded by counties that aren't the same size as us, and it's easy for our people to leave and go to those counties. You know, most of them are a 20-mile drive, which is not a big deal today. And when you can leave this county and go to another county next door, 20 minutes away, and make $10,000 to $15,000 more a year, it really hurts us here in being able to maintain qualified and trained people. And just, you know, I know somebody had said several years ago, we could go hire anybody off the street and do what you do, but I don't think some people understand how much training has to go into what we do. You know, if you hire somebody new and off the street, like in Beth's office, like for a deputy real estate, like for her deputy real estate person, you don't just come in off the street and know how to transfer a piece of real estate. In my office, you just don't come in off the street and know how to index a deed and know who a grantor and a grantee is and know how to read a legal description. And you don't know how to just, when somebody calls and they want to know, can you look this plat up for me, and can you tell me what the dimensions of this lot are on this plat? And can you look the covenants and restrictions and tell me what those are? So those are things that I think y'all need to take into consideration. And I'm sorry, but morale, when other people get huge raises and people that have been here for 15, 20 years are kind of pushed aside and not given that same consideration, morale is awful. you know, and I don't wanna lose my employee. She's good. She's good at what she does. I can leave this office and go on vacation, and I know that it's gonna be taken care of. And I know Beth feels the same way about the people in her office. So I just implore you to really, really look at those salaries, because I think it's important.
So are you asking for 10%? Is that what yours are?
I think it's a little higher, because I think they've been undercompensated for several years.
The recorder Tracy's 13, deputies 12.
Yeah. So, and on my salary, I just ask that we be given, there were 3 of us elected officials in this building that were not given raises like a couple other elected officials were a couple years ago. And that affects our retirement and our social security, because that's based on how much we make. So, we're not only getting the compensation during the time that we're here working, but we're losing out on that compensation when we retire. And so I would just ask that we be given the same salary that, the clerk and the auditor were given at that time. I know that, my office and the assessor's office and the surveyor's office were not given those raises, that year. And if you wanna come into my office and sit down and see what we do on a daily basis, you're more than welcome to come in. Just because I don't have people standing at my counter all day long, every day, doesn't mean that we're not busy. We've backloaded almost 25,000 documents since I've been in this office. So when we're not waiting on people at the counter and doing daily work, we're doing backloading. And we're back into 1973 right now with our needs. So, I just implore you to really seriously look at the salaries for, our first deputies, because I think they deserve it. I mean, I know all of you have worked in positions where you have someone underneath you that you depend on to do the daily work when you're not there, and you know how important that person is. And that's how I feel about my deputy, and I know that's how Beth and the other elected officials feel about their deputies. So. Any questions?
I think so.
And I'm paying half of my first deputies out of my perpetuation, so, and just to let you know, last year, we collected over $64,862 for the general fund, and the county taxpayers funded my office $56,557. So, we collected more for the general fund than the county taxpayers.
What was that amount?
We collected $64,862 and put in the general fund last year.
84, what'd you say, 64?
$64,862. And then budgeted for 2020 was $56,557. Which was my salary, half that I paid for my first deputy and my postage. So. Last year was a good year. We were up over 500 documents from the year before. We are up this year, but, that could fall out at any time if interest rates go high and the, market drops out of real estate, so. Any questions? Good to see you back, Josh.
Hey, you're muted, Josh.
Sorry, thanks. Technology, thank you, Peg. Good to see your face.
Yep, any questions? Okay, have a good rest of your day, guys. Thank you.
All right, Glenn?
Ready with me?
So I'm gonna make mine really easy, so, and I think,
Catch us up?
yep, I'm gonna catch you up a little bit. So, on page 10, I think is, budget 11, and I just wanna say thank you for all you guys are doing. I know it's really hard to figure all this out, And I'm not gonna give you a speech about salaries, but I will tell you that what I put in, the only increases was for people. Purdue is requiring a 3% increase, and I asked for 5% for county employees. We will take, try to be gracious for whatever you can do. We all think our employees are valuable and do awesome stuff. Outside that, the rest of the extension budget is the same. Been here quite a few years, we tend to spend about the same amount of money. The majority of the expenses happen in the summertime, so it's probably not shown on your sheet right there. But it's been exciting to get back to seeing people in person, and the fair was awesome if you had a chance to come see us, so. Any questions on the extension budget? Okay. The second one is the fairgrounds, and I think that is your last page, page 34. And, as you know, 7, 8 years ago now, we have had it build, operate, transfer with the Florida Community Club. They take care of the 4-H building, take care of the rest of it, of the fairgrounds, and I'm asking for the same amount of money. I would, ask that my cleaning person get the 5% increase. She's not been spending all of it, so I want the hourly increase, but not an increase in the total dollar amount. She cleans when we need her, she does a nice job, and,
You just have one, right?
just one. It's one cleaning person, only when we have things on the fairgrounds. So, this year we were only able to do one open show and the fair. The fair was awesome, so I hope you all had a chance to come see us, because we celebrated 100 years of this. So, any questions on either? If not, thanks again for all you do. I cannot imagine how hard this is, so, thank you, thank you.
I do have a
Oh,
question. You
yeah.
have one office manager, I'm just making sure for my budget salary.
Yes.
One part-time,
Yes. And then the 2 educators are in contract services that Purdue.
yeah, got it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. You guys have a great day. Anything else?
You too.
Morning.
Good morning. We'll see if we can continue speeding this up and getting you guys back on track. Thanks for everything on 1152, which is the community right to know. That one is controlled by the Indiana Emergency Response Commission, which is the local emergency response team. That's all the hazmat stuff that we get. That one's gonna stay the same. There's not gonna be any changes to that one. So, that one is done. On the emergency management budget, this one was ran through the Emergency Management Advisory Council, and recommended that I present this to you guys. The EMAC is asking for a 7% increase in the salary. They're asking for a 100% increase in office supplies due to the rising costs. We're not asking for any postage this year, because I got postage last year, and we haven't sent out as much postage as was anticipated. Gas, or the motor supplies, gas and oil, we're asking for a $1,000 increase, one because of the increased price of the fuel, along with the additional equipment that came in of the light towers and the MOC that runs off the generator when I can't get it hooked up to the 220. There's no changes to the expenditures, the expendable expenditure. There is a decrease of 100 in the uniforms that we're asking for. That's mainly because I haven't had as many hazmat calls this year and ruined 5 others. Siren inspection remains the same. Telephone hotspot remains the same. Radio electronic repair remains the same. Printing remains the same. Education promotion remains the same. They are asking for a $500 increase in motor vehicle repairs, and that's because of the additional equipment. We do have to change oil on the light towers and stuff like that. The outdoor warning sign repair We did ask for 3,000 last year, we're asking for the same this year. We don't know if we're gonna have to use it, but when one of those sirens goes down, it can be expensive. We'll just fix that. The utilities and emergency prep, it's a $100 reduction from what we've asked for in the past, and that's based off of the last 3 years that I've been here. We believe that we can bring it down $100 and still have enough to cover those expenses. And then everything else remains the same. If you wanted to know there's an overall increase of $4,295. And the county does receive 18,000 back each year from the EMPG grant for my salary. Except this year you guys are getting 19,769. It was 19,000 something.
Hey, Mike?
Yes, sir.
Quick question, just, somewhat off topic.
Uh-huh.
Is it possible to charge a fee when we have a hazmat response to the party that, wasn't released?
I cannot charge a fee because I'm not a fire department. And if there's a party on scene, it is their responsibility to clean it up. My fee, or where mine are mainly the expenses that are coming, are when we have the orphan spills. And by orphan spill,
Yeah, what is that?
an orphan spill is when we get the call and, take for instance, the one that was on Meridian between 100 and 200 where it was spread clear across the road. We don't know who it came from, you know, they left the scene and it's just there. But it does have to get cleaned up. So orphan spills do have to get cleaned, and unfortunately we have to bite it. Now, if the spiller is still on scene, we just show up, we make sure that they take care of the cleanup themselves. And then if they don't do it, then we call a contractor and have them come in and do it. And then they charge the spill.
Okay, well, I mean, it walks and talks like a fire department or an ambulance response. We're providing value and, making sure that the residents of the county are protected.
Right.
But it's, we're basically, providing all that value for nothing for somebody that didn't, well, I won't say didn't follow the rules, but.
Right, now, if I can find the spiller, we'll figure a way to get him billed. And that, but you get 9 times out of 10, when it's an orphan spill, they're hard to track down.
Okay, you just
Yeah.
said that if you can find the spiller, you can charge them, but you said you can't charge because you're not a fire department. Which one is it?
We'll find a way to get it billed, one way or another. And I have yet to find
But
this,
not to you.
not to me.
Okay,
What I'll
so-
do is end up calling a volunteer fire department out to assist.
So it would be billed by the fire
It'll be
department.
billed by the fire department and not me.
So
None of
that-
it would still
So it
come to
wouldn't
county
come to
general.
It wouldn't
That's
come
what
to
he's
county
asking.
general.
There you go.
And that, but what I would try and do, whatever I used before they got there, is the handshake between the fire department and I, they would give
They
me
would
some of.
restock.
Yeah, they would restock me, just like I took care of them through COVID and we got all the money back from FEMA. You know, cause we did recoup 43,000 of our expenses for COVID, for the PPE, and I took care of the county.
Thanks for that.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions for Mike? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
That's smart.
Thanks.
All right, Larry?
So I'm in shock this morning, I just found out that, Tom Hildebrand, White County Veterans Reserve officer died last Friday. He was only 62. Going down the worksheet, go to the budgets for the salaries. I'd like to get $20 an hour if I could. I now normally a little less than $18 an hour. The inflation rate is running over 5 to 6% right now. Everything keeps going up. Clerical, she was making $10.76. I had the option of raising it to $11 an hour for this year. I'd like to see her get $13 an hour next year. I can't tell you exactly how much money this office has brought in this year. The EA has been slow in doing claims, and the traffic is slowed down because of the COVID. Although unfortunately, I think it's gonna start increasing again because of Afghanistan and the mental stress and PTSD that's likely to come from that. And I just had a victim yesterday, and I got quite emotional about it in my office. But I did have one claim that was over a year old. The victim's gonna get over $2,000 a month, and he's gonna get $34,000 in back pay. I had some widows, 2 or 3 widows that now are getting $15,000 a year. I've helped some people on pensions, so just keep it working the best we can. Going down on the other issues on office supplies, I've asked for an increase, mainly because of the cost of items, and also we do have to buy, we're transferring some files that were just crammed together, and we'll have to buy some racks for those, and some new more folders too, as we put this apart. So that's the reason for that. Let's prepare, hopefully none of that. Mileage, because of the increase in gasoline, I asked from 150 to 200. However, this could be that won't even be spent. This year I haven't spent any money on going to any events because they're all done virtually now. And depending on the low virus, maybe next year they won't be used either. On the mileage, I don't know. Postage is going up. In fact, it has to increase from 165 to 220. Now here's a new one I would like, newspaper, because I've got a couple items I'd like to put in the paper if I can. We've got some old government plaques that's accumulated over the years that people haven't accumulated, and they haven't come in and to claim them. We don't know now. We can't. We're trying to track down the next kin to claim them, and if I have to, I may have to file myself and put them in the cemetery. But first of all, I might want to advertise them in the paper to get some
So that's not an
to
actual
the public.
it's not an actual newspaper, you want advertising,
Yeah,
is that what, okay.
advertising, yeah.
All right.
And then also, I'd like to put some pictures in the paper next year of the people that helped decorate the cemeteries. I think it would be a nice thing to do, and I did put some pictures in a letter I sent out, but I didn't have everybody, so I didn't wanna put it in the paper. If I could get most of them next year, I'd just like to have that as a feature, to let the public see who's doing all this good work to decorate our cemeteries. Burial soldiers, I've left alone. Veterans memorials, I increased a little bit because flags are more expensive, everything's more expensive, but I do have some flags on hand, so that will help take care of some of that. So just a little increase on that. Service officer school, $200. Here again, that may not be used. I haven't won any service officer school this year. It remains to be seen if it happens next year. office equipment, that's one, you never know what's gonna happen. This year I've had to replace, battery in our portable speaker system, I've had to replace, a microphone. I've had to buy a backup hard drive, these things happen, you just never know what might happen, so I asked for an increase in that. Office furniture, I don't think we need any more filing cabinets, I've reduced that from $400 to $200. And computer software, I've left alone, software is very expensive, so, as you know, so I left that alone, so that's kind of the picture for this. Any, questions? Appreciate, okay, I appreciate the big office you've given us too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Morning.
The only thing that's changed on my request this year has been for salaries. There are no changes in the lower items on the supplies. Although there's not been some expenditures yet this year. My expenses are more cyclical and I tend to spend towards the end of the year. So if you're looking at that and wondering, thinking that I don't need the money, hopefully I won't need the money, like, as much as what's in there, but I did not increase the printing and mailing of the tax statements, because there's $372 left from this year. I'm hoping that, amount will cover the increase in number of parcels and the increase in postage. If not, I feel confident that I can do a transfer. The next thing I'd like to address though is salaries, and I'm echoing what everyone else has said, and that is, requesting a generous increase in salaries. Specifically, I would like to see an increase in the part-time help. As you know, I have a few part-time workers that I rely on to collect taxes. Thank you. They are crucial to the collection of taxes. Paying them, offering them a maximum of $11 an hour is, you know, it's just not adequate. I mean, I see you can get a job at McDonald's for $15 an hour, and my people, I want them to come back. I need them to come back. I need to have experience. They're not cleaning toilets and sweeping floors. They're learning a tax system and learning all about tax bills and deductions and how to handle people. So what I would like to see and encourage you to do is not to stipulate an hourly rate, but just go with the amount. And in this year, I again requested $71.50. Actually, I increased that from percentage amount from last year. But give the department heads some leeway there to where they could set the hourly rate as long as they stay within the confines of that budget. I would like to see it in a more like a range up to $14, $15 an hour, depending on the position, how long they've been here. I think you should let the department heads kind of decide what that rate should be, because not everyone's gonna be the same. So I'd like to encourage you to do that. Also, I gave you each a printout of the, for the past 10 years, and this is straight off of Gateway, Indiana, our total receipts and disbursements for the last 10 years. In the last 3 years, we've averaged $3 million, approximately $3 million more in receipts than in disbursements. And right now, the surplus over the last 10 years is almost $16 million. I know our current fund balance is in excess of $35 million. So I really can't see how you can refuse to reward your employees with a nice, considerable salary increase. So, and also I did give you a comparison of elected officials in some of the counties here in Indiana. This is off of Gateway as well. Some of these numbers, these are minimums.
because like in Cass County, if you look at Cass County, some of those numbers are low, that's because they had a change in their office and elected officials, so that's actually what was spent. So the actual salary was more than that, but these are minimums of what was paid. And not every elected official is the same. Most counties, the auditor is a considerable amount more. I know you've made an increase in the auditor's salary a year or two ago. I think you need to continue on that path, because that's just my opinion, but the auditor is one of the most crucial positions in the county. There's a lot on that plate. And you need to keep in mind that if Beth and I are both reelected this next year, after that, we're out of here. You know, so you need to be able to get that auditor salary up to where you can recruit someone who's now going to Lafayette, Tippecanoe County. So I wanna encourage you to do that, because I care about this county, and I wanna see someone who has, you know, we need to recruit someone who's, they're not gonna have the experience, but hopefully they will have the skills. And to do that, you need to be pushing that salary up. So that's just my opinion. All right? Any questions? All right, thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, Melanie.
Good morning. Try to keep this as quick as I possibly can. Start off with salaries. I did put an increase roughly right below 5% across the board. My biggest concern, speaking with everybody before me about the part-time help, they could pay it way too low. Part-time help has been very difficult to retain or receive good applicants that are willing to not only work in diverse weather, but work within the environment that is a lot of manual work. There's a lot of responsibility on their plate as a part-time help. Jumping down, put an increase of 200 on the branding, just for change out in shirt uniforms, so that way people aren't destroying their own personal items, which would also include stuff like gloves for them to be able to work with, not just the vinyl gloves and stuff like that they can have on hand as the staff changes out, and everything else like that. Things get lost in the mix, shirts and stuff like that, they have to take it home to wash and stuff, so it's to kind of cover those different costs. Janitorial supplies, an increase on janitorial supplies, just for the fact that with the pandemic and everything that we have gone through, and cost of cleaning and sanitizing supplies going through the roof, watching the news, as everybody has, you know, they're thinking this week kick back up, kind of being proactive on just making sure that I retain and we can obtain the sanitation and cleaning supplies to keep everyone safe inside when they come into work. A new item added was vehicle fuel. Per the commissioners, custodial staff will have the use of the 84 GM camo pickup truck. We did get it up and running, and so I just have some maintenance stuff that's gonna happen because it's been set so long. General maintenance stuff. The highway department come over, they got started up, they moved it around. I drove it up to the courthouse and back. It ran really good. It just has like tire and just general maintenance stuff which is also on the vehicle side. Vehicle maintenance and repair of 5,000. That may be a little high. I don't think it would cost that much to have it looked at, but it needs an initial assessment, which I don't know if that's something that the highway maintenance garage could do. I don't know, I don't have that information, but if they could do it, then it'd save all of that.
Where did that vehicle come from?
You don't have a vehicle right now?
No.
Didn't you just give away a vehicle to another county?
That was a big truck. That was a big,
The big fire truck?
mhm.
Oh, it was a fire truck?
This is like a rescue.
Yeah.
Came
Yeah.
from the
Oh.
sheriff's department behind
Okay.
the EMS garage that
Okay, I was like, we just gave away a truck, okay, that's okay.
It wasn't a truck,
It was a fire
it
vehicle.
was a big unit.
What do you use the vehicle for?
Pick up supplies, some supplies I get cheaper in Lafayette, also run recycling, so it runs out to the transfer station. To give you an example, this year alone, since the truck that I was using broke down and was, unrepairable, so they deemed it to sell it in auction. I was using my truck and trailer, and I pulled trash alone from about 3,500 pounds.
So you did have a vehicle?
A couple years ago, or a year and a half ago.
The vehicle is no longer usable?
Correct,
Okay, that's what
correct.
I was saying, how do you not have a vehicle for all these years?
So this would be just for transporting, stuff out to the transfer station, all the recycling, cardboard. We go through a lot of paper products in here, that for recycling and stuff. And right now, currently, it's just kind of like we're condensing it and it's still in the basement. So that's where it's just kind of sitting.
So we don't have a contract with anybody that would come and pick that stuff up for us? Dumpsters, recycling bins, things that an outside organization would come in,
Correct.
charge us an annual fee.
The only company I've seen is the shredder people that have come in that for kind of paper products, but, to my knowledge, there is no, set contract other than the transfer station. But then you have the way,
That's gonna be a pretty high cost, because they're not cheap.
where it's maybe, if you fill up and plus it's a diesel, so it's gonna last full tank of gas would last forever in that thing for as much as I drive it, so you're looking at spend $60, $70 for a full tank, couple miles, that could last you several months, where
Where does our trash go?
trash goes over to the dumpster that's, behind, the bank over here.
So he just asked you if we had a dumpster, so we do have a dumpster.
Well, but not for cardboard, I'm sorry.
Just
That's
for
for
trash.
trash, yeah, the recycling items and metal items, the bigger bulky stuff, we take out the transfer station, sorry, I misunderstood.
Have you checked with the city to see where, like, their recycling, we could piggyback in there and,
No, I have not, but I
I
can.
mean, I don't know
Yeah.
whether that's feasible or.
Was it at one time, was the
I
hoppers out here on the pad, on the U drive? Someone had mentioned it, it was just in passing conversation, I don't remember who it was,
don't know,
but.
I was thinking that we were with them at one time, but I cannot remember that.
But, I don't think they offer recycling
They do
for,
not. I know
for
that.
businesses.
Okay.
They do offer
Oh,
trash
for the
removal,
businesses,
yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Gotcha.
And just from experience, it's like over $100 a month just for recycling, not even including the trash.
Is there any cooperation with the highway department to, like, on a set schedule, have one of those guys come over and haul stuff away? I just don't know that, it's nice to have a hand-me-down right now, but that's not sustainable 2, 3, 4 years down the road, and then you're gonna be back asking for a $55,000 pickup truck because your old one broke down.
That's who we're going with, yeah.
Right? And if there's other ways that we can accommodate getting this trash and recycling to where it needs to go, that's the reason I'm asking those questions.
Well, and I guess my question back to you would be, is there not like a rotation of county vehicles? Like, as people need new ones, like?
There is.
Not a lot of trucks.
No, well, I figured
Cars.
cars,
Not a lot of trucks.
Well, my question is in the same vein here. I mean, we have $5,000 of vehicle maintenance and repair for a truck. Run is booked for $1,000. I mean, does that make sense to anybody?
Well, no, I would say that from just word of mouth and from people talking, that this truck alone for the weight, cause it's a heavy duty diesel, old military truck, it would bring in a lot more than $1,000.